Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is Bob Pompeani here with you at 412-575-2600. Up until 11 o'clock, Andrew Fillipponi will be joining us shortly here. We have a lot to get into, so call and air your opinions. We saw what a magical Penguins game that was tonight, and I want to just let you know how much the pressure increases on teams. The Flyers had a 3-0 lead. Now, normally when you look at the, broad scope of this 7-game series, when a team has a 3-0 lead, they win almost every single time. Only 4 teams have ever come back. 213 have not. Some of the stuff I was talking about, I'm just going to tell you that these teams that go up 3-0 131 of them win Game 4, and it's a 4-game sweep. If you don't win Game 4, then 58 others won Game 5. But as you get closer to the end here, you'll see a lot of these teams just, don't get it done. 16 won in Game 6. 6 had to win in Game 7. 4 never won at all. But it gets a little bit more pressure packed for the home team. That's my point of giving you those numbers. And now Philadelphia has to go home, and they'll play on Game 6, 7:30 on Wednesday. And if they should fall behind, you watch how that fan base will turn on that team, and they'll get a little anxious, boos will start coming out, and the pressure mounts. The last thing they want to do is come to Pittsburgh to play Game 7. Now, as that was going on, the Pirates were across town, and boy, they had a bullpen game. I hate those, but if you have to use them, you have to use them, and they're going to be kind of short on pitchers. That's what happens when you have a bullpen game. Your thoughts on all of this? 412-575-2600 is the number to call. Want to hear from you about the Penguins, their chances. Are you starting to believe they can pull this off? Again, they still have to win 2 more games, and it's tough for Philadelphia right now. They're going to have to get this over with before they get to 7 if they want to. If not, it could go any which way in Game 7. That's what I love about sports. You never know until you play the game, and that's what they're doing right now. We're going to take a break, come back with your phone calls. Again, it's 412-575-2600 right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan, and hopefully Andrew Fillipponi will be here. I know he got stuck in traffic, I bet, at the Penguins game. We'll hear from him next. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night. Josh Yohe over the Penguins said, Rick Tocchet sounded like a guy who thinks his team was a little tight tonight. All the pressure's on the Flyers now, getting interesting, and it certainly is. As we welcome in Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. That's what happens when you don't close it out quickly. The longer this lingers, the more pressure increases. Philadelphia's largely an inexperienced team with a lot of young players on it. And I thought they did something good tonight that I haven't seen a lot of. They made life a little bit more difficult on Dan Vladar, Andrew, going behind the net, making him not get set. He's a little he's a technical goaltender, what I've watched all year from him, and when he's set, it's hard to beat him. But when you go side to side or from behind the net and make things happen, he has a much more difficult time.
Yeah, my sincere apologies for being late here, Bob. That's what happens when you win and there's 20,000 people that stayed till the end of the game, and I was trapped in that vortex of traffic around the arena. Look,
it's never easy on a good night there, let alone one of those kind of nights.
So he gives up more goals from below the goal line than anybody really in the league. And what you saw was Anthony Mantha's pass to set up that first goal by Elmer to put him up 1-0. I mean, he gave up one of the biggest blooper goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs with that Letang goal that, ends up being ultimately the deciding goal in this game. And, there was some question about Vladar's health, too, going into Game 4. Maybe he's not completely physically healthy, and that could also be playing some head games with him. But I got to give Dan Muse credit. I mean, I don't know how much it's translated into the way that the play has been in front of him. But Shilov's has been, I think, better than Vladar in the 2 games he's played. And what impressed me the most about this game from a structural standpoint is I thought for as wide open and as chaotic as the second period was, the Penguins played a really strong defensive game in the final 20 minutes. And yeah, there were a couple of close calls in the last minute or two when the Flyers had their goalie pulled. But for the most part, I thought they played a great third period defensively. And the Flyers, most of their high-quality chances occurred earlier in the game and not in the last 20, 15 minutes where they were pressing for that final goal.
Yeah, I think they got back to playing the kind of hockey we saw in the regular season, especially in the third period, as you said. I agree. Limited shots didn't make things happen. Of course, when you pull a goaltender, anything can happen, and they survived that a couple of times. But, man, I can't say enough about Sidney Crosby. Every time I watch this guy, it's such an appreciation level for me to watch a guy in his 21st year still do the things he does. I thought he was done after he took that shot in the leg. The way he was walking along, getting to I said, there's no way he's going to come back, or if he does, he's going to be hobbled. And he came back. He won every critical faceoff down the stretch. His hand-eye coordination, almost had 2 empty net goals that was denied. I mean, the guy is he's terrific. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that on a day-to-day basis.
You're right. I think I looked up at one point, and against Zegras, he had won 10 of 11 faceoffs against the Flyers' annoying top-line center. I also want to tip my cap to the fourth line, because I feel like the fourth line has been the Penguins' most consistent line in this series. And Dewar scored another goal, and all goals were big in this game. It was a lower-scoring 3-2 game, and I feel like they're skating. They play so much of the game in the Flyers' end, and when they reward you with goals on top of that, early in the series, the Flyers were getting bonus goals from their fourth line, from their penalty kill. Their defensemen, Sanheim did it again tonight, but their defense was pumping in goals. You get those bottom 6 goals. We saw it when the Penguins won the Stanley Cup with that third line 10 years ago. Those bottom 6 goals, I think, can be a huge difference maker in a series. And that fourth line, I think, has brought it every night in the playoffs so far for the Penguins.
Yeah, and they need more, we talk about secondary scoring. Soderblom gave them that tonight. Dewar gives them that tonight. Other than the big names, you got to get contributions from everyone. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Andrew at 412-575-2600. Matt in Butler is our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. Matt, you're on.
Hey, guys. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Matt.
Comment and a question here about the Pens. The comment is that the next game, Philadelphia is going to come out very physical. They're going to look to beat the heck out of the Penguins because that's going to be what their coach is telling them to do. The question is, what's your thought about Carlson here? He's MVP, regular season for the Pens, not very good here in the playoffs.
He was good tonight, I thought. I really thought he was good tonight. And I think, you can look at the early part of this series, and all of them were out of whack. I thought Philadelphia had a very good game plan. They forced the issue. They made them into mistakes. We saw 6 shorthanded goals in the one game. I mean, they were having breakdowns after break. I thought tonight Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang perhaps had their best games of this series.
Yeah, I thought for a lot of this game, both teams had shots from the point that got to the net. Now, maybe you could say there's good and bad to that, because that means maybe the screens aren't good and goalies are able to see the shots so they're able to block them and save them, glove them sometimes. But I agree, we're seeing the Penguins really only play 5 defensemen right now. Or really 4, their top 2 pairs, because what's happened to that third pair with the decision that they've made. And I was nervous that more Girard and more Letang would be a very bad thing, but maybe it's having the exact opposite effect, where more ice time is bringing out the best in them. We were nervous early in the series with the way the first 2 games went, Bob, that a guy like Martone, that guys like him, these younger Flyers, Tippett in his speed, we're going to end up prevailing here. And I barely noticed Martone tonight. I don't think he had a shot late in the game, and that was it. Those guys have been neutralized a little bit here over the last 2 games, which is huge for the Penguins. Maybe there is some angst and some anxiety for them closing out a series with young guys, Bob.
Yeah, and getting back to your original point, I agree with this too, because I didn't see necessarily that Dan Muse, a rookie coach, would make a goaltender switch after his starter in the series. I thought Skinner made some fabulous saves to keep them in both games 1 and game 2. Game 3 was not his best, but he could have stayed with him. He chose not to, because he's used both all season long. That's a risky move for a rookie coach, knowing that Skinner was the number 1 guy going into this, and he hadn't necessarily played badly. In game 3, he wasn't as good as he was, but I give him credit for that and how they've responded now. But I'm sure the leadership in that locker room had a lot to do with it as well.
Well, I think the whole time, all along, the Penguins themselves had more confidence in Shelovs than the fans and media did. We were calling, at least I was, for Miroshov to get a shot late in the year in case you needed to go to a backup in the playoffs. And they did go to a backup. They held it down with Shilovs, who had played in the Olympics for Latvia, the biggest tournament of the year, the biggest event of the year against the best players in the world. Last year, he won the American League championship and was the MVP of that tournament. And people might forget this, the year before, he was in Vancouver when Rick Tocchet was the coach there, and he was their goaltender in the playoffs. He won a series. They got beat in the next round by, ironically, the Oilers and Stuart Skinner. So this guy does have Stanley Cup playoff experience, and he's won a series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And, maybe there's a little bit of gamesmanship there because Tocchet's won with this guy. And Tocchet, that quote that you read off for the tweet of the night, that's interesting that was Josh's observation that maybe the Flyers now are feeling the heat of this series and the pressure's on them. And if they get off to a slow start in Philly, Bob, will the fans there turn on them?
Absolutely,
and sense that they're choking and blowing this series?
Yeah.
Let's hope
One more quick call. It's Chuck in Uniontown. Chuck, I know you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. About the Pirates, gentlemen, I will tell you, tomorrow night is the most important game of the year because tomorrow night they must come out to win tomorrow night to flush this out. They won't take away the loss, but they have to get a positive vibe back into this situation again, because if the stench of this loss tonight lingers, it could be a killer for the rest of the season.
Well, certainly for the rest of the homestand, and that's a good point, Chuck. I'm not a big bullpen fan, an opener, and all this stuff, especially the way they did it tonight. One inning here, one inning here. I thought Dotel was cruising right along, and to me, he was under a controlled pitch count. I would have kept him in the game. Instead, they go more and more. Andrew, they used 8 pitchers. And, Soto was good in the 8th. I know he has to go to Santana. This is his whole thing about every inning. You got to have different guys. If a guy's going a little bit better for me, I'm going to stick to him, especially when I'm trying not to use everyone in my bullpen, knowing that I have 6 more games in a row in this homestand.
Yeah, I thought that, you have a perfect game going through almost 7 innings, even if you're doing it guy by guy. I'm not going to really second guess maybe the moves that got made to that point. Santana has been brilliant. Okay, he blows a save. That's that's hurtful. Like Chuck said, you don't want to now have your longest losing streak of the season at home against a last place team. But to me, the biggest theme of this game, beyond having a perfect game so late and then the closer blowing it, is the fact that you didn't tack on more runs.
Right.
You were stuck on 2 runs against a St. Louis team that doesn't pitch the ball well. So to me, that was where you lost this game, as it turned out. Where were the insurance runs, Bob, that would have made that blow up from Santana? Okay, so you don't lose the game there. Maybe you get it to extra innings and you're able to win it from there.
And they had their chances. They just could not generate anything more. But still, Santana's got to close that down against that team at that time, I think. And he was not good at all. We got to take a break, come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA+. All right, welcome back. Bob Pompeani, Andrew Fillipponi with you. And Pony, I saw at the end of that game, Konechny came over and just absolutely blindsided Crosby. He cross-checked to the back, and then things happened right there. To me, that was, Ristolainen had one of those the other day on Crosby when he hit his stick when Crosby was down on the ice on his hand or wherever he hit it. That's a sign of frustration to me, and I wonder about the effect it would have on Philadelphia moving forward.
That's how I see it. I'm happy that you brought it up that way because, provided it doesn't do physical damage to Sid where he's injured the next game or hurt or compromised. I love the fact that they have to go back to their old ways and shenanigans at the end of these games because that shows me you're right. That the Penguins are starting to, it's the opposite from where the series started. Right. They're getting under the Flyers' skin now, Bob.
Real quick, Carolina, I've always believed if you're going to win a Stanley Cup, you need a quick series. Carolina made quick work of Ottawa. How much does that help them, regardless who they play next series?
Good question. I mean, they're going to have a lot of time off if this goes 7.
Exactly.
So in that respect, I don't know if it's a good thing for them. Maybe they come out rusty to start that series, and that would be huge because the Penguins, Bob, have not won in Raleigh since Antonio Brown was in a Steelers uniform.
Well, maybe he could go down there and, do that thing.
Tell him business is booming.
Yeah, I don't know where he is, by the way.
Big
Antonio
Chest.
Brown. I have not heard his name. I don't know where he is. He was in Dubai last I checked. Anyway, that's going to do it for us.
He was not at the Penguins game tonight. Mike McCarthy, though, was twirling that towel, baby.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see you back here tomorrow night at 10:35. Hope you join us then. Thanks for joining us here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Good night.